this idea that we need to have a ton of certifications, that we need to have like years and years of experience, we need to have all of this proof is actually a very old story that people who are insecure about their ability to succeed have told the rest of us, because this belief in like a zero sum game where if I win you have to lose, or if you win I have to lose. And if that's what we believe to be true, and then of course by like the nature of competition, we're going to tell other people, hey, you need to do all of these things in order to consider yourself qualified and then in order to be able to compete with me. Welcome to the Manifesting Millions podcast, where we talk about manifestation, money, and practical guidance to creating your dream reality. My name is Amy Van Meel, and I am an experienced coach and transformation guide, obsessed with helping you get out of your own way and create a life that blows your mind each day you wake up. My goal in this podcast is to share practical manifestation, self-awareness, and growth techniques in real talk conversations. So if you're ready to massively transform your reality, your finances, your relationships, and your overall enjoyment of life, you are in the right place. I am absolutely delighted that you're here with me today, babe. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the podcast, my loves. I'm delighted to have you here with me today. I am fresh off of recording a fantastic interview with Marta Spurk of the Empowered Woman podcast. Oh my goodness, I'm super excited for it to come out. It's actually going to be coming out a little later this week, so I'm super pumped for that. Keep an eye on the socials for, of course, all of the promotion. I will tell you about it. And of course, you can find the Empowered Woman podcast on your favorite podcasting platforms. If you're listening to me, I guarantee whatever platform you're listening to me on, you can also get that podcast. So it's been a really exciting time in my life. I've had some super fun kind of experiences open up and unfold for me lately. And today has been a very interesting day. So I started off this morning I often do this in the morning, but sometimes it happens in the afternoon with a little bit of meditation and reflection. I think I mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago maybe that I've been reading through the Abundance book by John Randolph Price, and I highly recommend it. It's the tiniest little book. So if you're like, oh my God, Amy, it's another book, I don't have time to read that. This is not a long book, okay? Like the book is like 3 inches by 4 inches, maybe? I think it's smaller than my phone, actually. So it might not even be 3 inches by 4 inches. But it's really fantastic. And then paired with that, I've also been doing this other 21-day money program because I'm always exploring and kind of seeing like what comes out of it. I'm learning a ton from other folks, and I'm doing this all of the time. So what I want to talk about today is it's related to both of these books, okay? So as I sat down this morning, it's a beautiful, like rainy, droopy day, which might not sound like the most beautiful of days. It's one of my favorite weather moments. I kind of feel the same like about like snowstorms. Snowstorms I like a little bit less only because if my husband has gone to work, I'm always a little worried about him driving on the highway. But beyond that, I love the coziness that comes like standard of those kinds of days. So I was sitting down this morning with my reflection, just listening to the rain, thinking about the piece that I was asked to reflect on as part of this like 40-day prosperity plan. And then I leaned into the 21-day challenge that I've been doing. And I love how the universe works. I don't know if you see this in your life, but I see it so clearly through mine. Like I feel sometimes like the universe is kind of smirking at me, like, told you, girl, like I got you. So in my reflection, I had this really beautiful deep, I'll call it like a conversation with source, which gave me just huge amounts of revelations and a ton of clarity. And then I went into my 21-day challenge. And of course, today's challenge was about limiting beliefs. I'm like, okay, I see what you did there. I'm with you, universe. I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And what I want to share today, this is not something that I often do because I generally keep my internal work a little bit more private, at least until I've processed it more deeply. But I want to share with you, honestly, a little bit of what came up today. So I've been exploring my own beliefs for, gosh, like it's got to be 10, 15 years since I first started learning about this idea of like beliefs and limiting beliefs. Who knows when that actually started? And of course, because of both the nature of my interest, but also because of like the journey of my life, I've often been digging into beliefs around money. So today was a very interesting exploration because there's this beautiful piece of like a whole bunch of pieces coming together. I'm going to describe this very quickly for you because I know that like I often feel like I'm kind of winging it, I suppose, and hoping I'm doing the right things. And then I find out afterwards that like super successful people do this kind of stuff all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, that's like part of someone who's super successful? What? Okay, cool. So let me just kind of give you a little bit of an example. So this week has been full of some really amazing opportunities. One of the podcast interviews that I did before came out. I got asked to come do a test shoot for a potential modeling gig. That's new. I haven't told anybody about it. So, hey, you're welcome. You're here, you're learning it here first. And like just a lot of good things have been coming out. And I've also been diving a little bit into some of the bonus material that I have for this business program that I invested in last year, I think. And as I was going through one of the bonuses, it was like 5 things that made the difference from me being a 6-figure to a 7-figure entrepreneur, I think was the title of it. So I'm walking on the treadmill yesterday, listening to this video and realized that I'd heard this video before, which is fine, but also realized I'm actually doing all 5 of these things. I was like, oh my God, okay. Now that might not sound like a big deal to you, but the reason that it's a big deal is because I have been struggling to see myself as a entrepreneur, as someone who is like serious in her business. No, and I'll just say it's not because I'm like not doing the things, but like, I don't know, there's this sort of invisible wall that I've often felt about like, well, what would it actually look like in order for me to be considered a serious CEO, an actual founder, an actual entrepreneur? And the sad part is I have been holding up in my mind examples of what I'll call old school patriarchal examples. Okay. So the example I always see in my brain is a guy in a suit who's, I don't know, got the nice car, making tons of money, has a bunch of clients. Whether or not that's actually true in terms of like that this fictional person's business doesn't really matter, but that's how I had perceived it. So all of these pieces are coming together, and the timing, if you think the universe is like goofing you with the timing, the universe never messes up with timing, okay? I know that sometimes we feel frustrated. We probably often feel frustrated because we feel like the universe's timing and our timing are not aligned. We're like, can this be faster? And the universe is like, yo, dog, I'm going as quickly as you will let me, right? So there are moments like this, and they happen more and more often, where I just see these like cascading series of events that all come together within a brief like period of, I'll call it clock time, all in an effort to create an awareness, build a lesson, shift a belief, whatever is needed at that time. So all of this is going on, right? So I've got these successes. I listened to the podcast interview as I was going out for a walk, this podcast that I'd recorded before, and I was like, "Oh my God, I sound like really smart and intelligent and informed." And that might sound silly to you to hear me say that, but I always wanting to come across intelligent and open and transparent. Um, and there's this sort of old kind of, I guess, veil maybe that like feels like I'm a kid walking in my mom's grown-up shoes, right? I do think that that's a bit of a gift because part of that spirit allows me and helps me to stay young and helps me to just like tune into my more childlike heart that comes up from time to time. And that's really it's a massive magnet for people in and around my life. But it does sometimes like create some of these veils. So all of this is coming together. I sit down today and I crack open this 21-day challenge. And today's challenge is limiting beliefs. And I'm like, huh, okay, universe, I am picking up what you're putting down. This is not by accident. We're here to clear something today. So this is what comes through. I'm thinking that potentially, because this like 21-day challenge is focused on money. So I'm okay, there's going to be some kind of like money belief that's coming through. And I just hear this quiet, like almost like a chuckle, like, honey, today isn't about money. Today's about something much bigger than money. And I'm like, okay. What comes through for me today? And I'm going to like just read to you right out of my journal here. A couple of things. So first, part of this like process in this thing is to like identify the limiting behavior that's getting in the way. So here's what I wrote down. Seeing all of my work as cute or new or small, talking myself out of reaching out to or connecting with, quote, big people, constantly searching for the thing that will open up the next level, telling myself I'm figuring it out in a way that says I don't know enough yet, dismissing my work as a, quote, rookie level by comparing everything I produce against people who have teams. All right. So these are some of the behaviors that have come up. So then we're asked to go like, well, what's the limiting belief that's related to the behavior? And I started writing something different and realized, no, that's not it. And I have learned over time to trust what flows through. I will say that like sometimes what flows through doesn't follow the formula or like the process that we've been taught to follow. As you become more, I suppose, adept at like uncovering beliefs and stuff, you'll find that the way that they're written out will show up differently, and that's a really beautiful thing. But the way that it's been explained, and I do this in the Building Vampires program as well, where I share of like how to shift a limiting belief and how to identify what that is. That process is really powerful, and if you just did that over and over and over again, of course you'd see massive, massive changes. But what's really amazing and unique about our experience as humans on this physical 3D plane is that source is always connected to us, is always talking to us, and is always showing us a tweak, a change, something that we want to see. And it might be in language that we haven't necessarily been expressed. Okay. And I just want to set that up because when I read to you what I have as a limiting belief, you might be like, have sort of a knee jerk reaction. I'm saying this because I know that would be me had I heard this before today. A knee jerk reaction that says, well, that's not actually how a belief is framed. So here is the belief. Okay. You ready for it? I believed all the insecure people that told me I had to have years of experience, boatloads of proof, and a whole bunch of degrees or certifications in order to qualify as pro, as an expert, as worthy and responsible to help others. Now, what's really key and what's so unique, you might hear some shuffling as I put my book down here. What's really key and what's really unique about this particular belief is tied specifically to my work. I don't have like financial certifications. I haven't done any kind of formal education when it comes to money, when it comes to finances. At this point, I haven't done any like specific professional degrees in terms of coaching or mentoring. And That's been something, so long as I've been holding this belief to be true, that has been getting in the way of my professional, not just success, because success is a big one, but the ability for people to find me, to see me, and to want to connect with me. Because energy is everything, right? So what I put out is what people are hearing. So even if I'm saying to you the words, it's like, hey, I'm really great at coaching folks. I'm really great at creating shifts. I'm really amazing at walking alongside the journey with you and helping you really like bring into realization the dreams and goals that you're going after. If the energy underneath all of that is this concern that I don't have the degrees, I don't have the certifications, I don't have all of these like trappings of professionalism that we've been taught that we need to have in order to like legitimately have a business, that's the energy that you're going to read. So for whatever reason, even if what I'm saying sounds good to you, you're not going to be like drawn in to work with me, right? So I've known this, and it's no mistake, like I said, that the universe opened up this specific learning for me today. So I want to color that in for you a little bit. So let me actually just like add this at the beginning. It's irresponsible if we have zero knowledge of something to go tell other people about that thing. However, and I'm laughing as I say this, the majority of people do this, okay? Ask any entrepreneur that exists on the planet how many times they have been given business advice from someone who has never in their life owned a business. Okay? So like, I'm just going to put that right out there, very clear right up front. It's irresponsible for us to be like giving advice and trying to like help others, but people are doing this all the time. Okay? Neither one is necessarily like good or bad. It's just a thing. So with that in mind, what I realized was like, as I started to go back into, well, where did I pick up this belief? Where did this come from? I have observed over the decades that I've been on the planet, a number of people, and I will say primarily men, and that's not because like guys are the devil or anything like that. It's because when I was growing up, most of the people who were successful and were on these like more public platforms and forums were, of course, men. That's starting to shift. But when I was, under 20, even in my 30s, like it's only really been over the last, I would say maybe 10 years that I've started to see more professional and successful women that are talking about it. However, the problem is because this is like a core sort of story that's told through society, we tend to keep saying it over and over and over again. So what came through as clarity for me today is that this idea that we need to have a ton of certifications, that we need to have like years and years of experience, we need to have all of this proof, is actually a very old story that people who are insecure about their ability to succeed have told the rest of us, because this belief in like a zero-sum game where if I win, you have to lose, or if you win, I have to lose. And if that's what we believe to be true, then of course, by like the nature of competition, we're going to tell other people, hey, you need to do all of these things in order to consider yourself qualified and then in order to be able to compete with me. Okay? Now, let me just say up front, competition is also a false reality. It just doesn't exist outside of like the human construct. Like we've created competition. Don't come start emailing me about like, well, Amy, animals have competition. Competition as we see it in business is a human construct. You get to decide whether you buy into it or not. Okay? And I have long ago said, I'm not interested in this. It's also why I've wondered about this for many years. Like, why does it not get me excited to go into a competition? Okay. So whether it's like I'm entering a competition when I was like in design school, or whatever. Like, it could be anything. It could be like a game that like is played at some kind of like conference or something. I'm never interested in it, and I've always been like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I just not bloodthirsty or hungry enough for the success that I want in order to like go all and like take no prisoners kind of style? And it's taken some time for me to realize, well, that's actually, it doesn't have to be that way. There's a very small group of people in the world that believe that way, that get off on that, that like are really fueled up by that. And I am not one of them. And that does not make me any less worthy, deserving, or likely to succeed. So let's just say that right up front. But once I started to realize, and this morning's belief was a massive shift for me. And I'm going to just add into this. So I've talked a little bit about the journey of how I came into doing the work that I do today, where I teach about money, and I'm like really vocal about it. And my goal really is to increase the knowledge and the experience of every person, in terms of their, like, through their financial reality, but of course filtered across the breadth of their life. When I was first called into this work, I was like, universe, you've got the wrong fucking number. Okay. I have spent my entire, to this point, I'd spent my entire adult life in debt. I'd never in my life made six figures. I was, still struggling. I had made huge headway. And shortly after I got this call and finally I said, fuck it. Okay, fine. Like, what do you want from me? Kind of a deal. I released the leveraged money that was in my life. But at the time that this call came in, I was still very much leveraged. Okay. And I was making steady progress, but still had it in existence. And over the years, as I've answered this call and leaned further into the work, that question has never fully gone away of who the hell am I to be talking about this? Why am I the one being asked to share about this? And what's come through, so I love this conversation. I was at a women's event that I organized a few months ago, and I was sort of talking about this like exact same stream. And someone said to me, Amy, but maybe you're the best person. Maybe because you've had all those experiences, that actually is what makes you the perfect person to have these conversations. Now, that's super easy for someone on the outside to say, but it's way harder for us on the inside to feel that and accept that to be true. And riding under the core of all of this was this sense, this story, this crappy old belief that I've been carrying, that I needed to have proof of my ability and qualifications in order to teach about this. Now, I don't know how the hell I'm supposed to like write a qualification that says, here's the, 2 decades of study that I've done. Here's all of the experiments that I've done. Here's all of the tools that I've learned. That doesn't exist, okay? And I'm going to add one little extra thing in this. So part of this belief releasing process is to like kind of talk about like, well, what would universe, source, God say about this belief? That kind of thing. And as I was writing through and feeling it come through the voice of source says certifications are a human created construct. There's no way that I specifically can like offer you a certification. Okay. That's not how source works. And more importantly, I want to say this carefully. So let me just front this by saying, if anybody's like created a certification or believes deeply in your certifications and your degrees, this is not an insult. This is not an affront. I'm not saying that this is all fake. This is the message that came through to me today. Certifications, degrees, whatever the qualifications are, yes, are ways that we expand our knowledge and our wisdom. They are also barriers to entry. So, for example, in order to be a doctor, you need to go through a tremendous amount of training. And please do that because like, fuck, I don't want anybody like telling me about my body or like slicing into me that hasn't gone through a ton of training and knows the human body really well and like all that kind of stuff, right? So this is not to say that like knowledge and degrees and qualifications and stuff are not valuable. What it is to say is that, especially at least in the work that I do, there is no qualification that like would say, yeah, Amy's got the knowledge to do this, because it doesn't exist. And there's so many things that didn't exist. So keep in mind, even talking about doctors, the qualifications that exist today, those didn't exist however many thousands of years ago. Okay? There's a reason we call it modern medicine, right? It's today's medicine. And yes, we need barriers to entry because, of course, we want to make sure that we have people who are responsible in those places, and specifically like where we're dealing with the body and stuff. But historically, there wasn't a qualification. All right. There was like perhaps training at the hands of someone else. And then you kind of just assumed that they were correct, that they knew what they were doing. And I would venture to say this is true about every single new industry, every single new thing that comes out. Because at the beginning, how do you qualify for something that's brand new? You can't. You need to like, if I said to you, I was an expert on raindrops, I don't think there's like some kind of certification that I could do that says, yep, Amy is a certified raindrop expert. Now, what happens is when we see folks, and I don't know why Brian Baumler is like coming through my mind, but like, if you're not familiar with him, he's on HGTV, and he has this like, he's developed this Brian Baumler approved certification. I have no idea what's included in it. I've never done it, but I've seen it listed on a few of my designer friends' websites and stuff. And really, what it is that Brian has created a tremendous amount of success in his life. He has built trust and this like idea of quality behind his work. And he's now found a way, because I'm sure you pay for it, to monetize this trust, this element of quality in a way that other people can access. So let's say, for example, that his program is like a 2-week online course, and you kind of learn a couple things, and then you answer like an 80-question test. And if you get more than 80% right, you get this approval and you pay for it, whatever, right? Again, I'm making all this shit up because I have no idea what the program is. But like to say, okay, I've done this and that therefore means that I'm going to be great at this doesn't necessarily compute. However, that's not the point. The point is that Brian has found a way to package up the success that he's built and monetize it in a way that allows his business to expand. Coaching certifications are the same kind of thing. Every single tool and element that's been created has been created by humans. Rapid resolution therapy is a great example because I just happen to know a little bit of the origin story of this. And human design actually is similar. Both systems are literally like a system of, so RRT is a system of healing. Human design is a system of like knowing ourselves and like how we exist in the world. They were created by humans. Okay, these were humans who, so human design is like this bringing together of a whole bunch of different systems and processes together. So it's like the I Ching and the Kabbalah Tree of Life and oh gosh, now I'm forgetting them all, but there's like 5 or 6 different systems that come together that create the human design system. Rapid resolution therapy was created by a therapist. And I'm going to assume, I don't know the full origin story, but like probably created through his specific learning and like practice with his patients. And so then he was like, oh my gosh, this is seeing really great results. And over time tweaked it and then has developed and packaged that into a system and taught that to others. So now other people get to say, I've learned this and I therefore have this qualification, but that didn't exist before, right? And we're kind of like taught to buy into this. So I suppose what I want to leave you with today is like, I'm very passionate about this, as you can maybe see. What was so astounding to me today was I kept thinking about one of the steps in this video that I saw yesterday. So like the 5 things that I did that took me from 6 figures to 7 figures, I think is what it was called. And one of the steps was I turned pro. And talked about like taking their business seriously, talked about like showing up full out every day. These are all things that I've been doing. And what I realized was that it wasn't a question of whether or not I'm qualified, whether or not I have the skill, the knowledge, the experience necessary in order to open the portal for folks to initiate change and transform, because that's actually my job. My job isn't to like do the work for you. I can't do the work for you. My job is to show up fully as me, which only I can do. And there is no certification for that. There's nobody out there that says, yep, you're 100% Amy Van Meel right now. Good job. Here's your diploma, right? That doesn't exist. My job is to show up fully as me and to allow that authenticity and the words that come through me to create an activation within you. And that activation within you is actually what causes the transformation. It's when you say yes to it. It's when you say yes to more wealth, more time, more freedom, more knowledge, whatever it looks like for you, more love, more joy. That act of saying yes, I can't do that for you. What I can do is open the door. I can show you the pathway. I can give you some tools and strategies to make it easier, which is, of course, like all of what building vampires is about. And my job is simply to make that as approachable and easy as possible for you, but it's your job to say yes and to actually do the transforming. And once we start to understand that, my hope is that, like, if you're an entrepreneur hearing this, or you've had this idea for a business for years and hell, even months, and like you've been stopping yourself from doing it because you're like, but I'm not qualified, I don't have all of the, whatever in order to do this. My hope is that you're going to hear this and go, wait a minute. What if I'm exactly the person that needs to be here doing this? So one of the things that came through this morning was, and I don't want to try to find it in the book, but like basically Source says to me, I've been spending more than 40 years grooming you, teaching you, and expanding your knowledge. You're ready for this? Like, there isn't anybody better than you to do this work. And when we understand, I see this vision of, I think her name is Sahara Rose. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. It's somebody that I've come across recently as I've been like researching into podcasts to reach out to come on as a guest for an interview. By the way, if you're hearing this, like I'm super open to like coming on as a guest for podcasts. So just reach out to me. However, I came across this person and there was like a sponsored ad that showed up on my Instagram last night. And it was this person talking about like, I think it was something like, I don't know, like if you're a multi-passionate entrepreneur, don't actually know, and it doesn't really matter. The point is, I see this person who's fairly young and is doing this incredible work. And I'm willing to bet that they didn't see some kind of certification or degree that says, okay, here you're going to be a teacher about Dharma and whatever. They just knew, they responded to the call deep inside that says, you need to teach about this and you need to talk about this. Source is so fucking intelligent and powerful. And I use source as a very neutral term. Again, I say this throughout all of my programs, and I've said this through other podcast episodes. Substitute in source for God, universe, Allah, kind of whatever makes sense to you. I just use source. It's a neutral, open term to me, and it also makes sense to me in terms of like that's the source energy. That's where everything flows from. Source is very, very, very intelligent. I mean, it's the heart of intelligence, okay? It doesn't fuck up. It doesn't make mistakes. Even if, we get the call and we're like, listen, Source, I think you got the wrong number. I'm pretty sure you meant to call like somebody else down the street that's more successful or that has more experience or has whatever else. There's a reason that you're getting the call. So if one of your beliefs is, something related to like, I need to have specific qualifications, I need to have like all these years of proof, I need to have whatever, are those things that you actually need? Yes, there are industries, of course, where you need to have specific learning and practical application of that learning in order to be able to responsibly help people in that way. So healthcare as a general sort of overarching industry is one of those, right? But in what I would say is probably more and more cases, because as more of us are becoming aware and learning how to tap into our intuitive gifts, those intuitive gifts may not align into specifically something that already exists in the planet. I've had folks say to me over the last couple of years, like, Amy, you should get your, financial advisor certificate, or whatever, like some kind of like financial professional certifications. And I've always said, no, I'm not going to do that. And the reason for that is twofold. One, I'm not I'm not interested in like doing it. Really, that's the only reason I need. It just doesn't interest me. But the other thing is that my my intuition says to me, if I were to go after those certifications, and then the whole intent behind that would be to go, look, I'm a certified financial planner. Look, I'm a certified financial advisor. Look, I'm a whatever it is. I am then beholden to the specific rules and regulations that are part of that industry. And while that makes sense, right? We want certified financial planners to like be fucking responsible and have some regulations. Totally get that. But in the work that I'm doing, it doesn't make any sense. In the work that I'm doing, the skill and the knowledge and the um, ability to initiate that change comes primarily through my lived experience. And I use lived experience as like a very broad term, because that's not just like day-to-day life living every day, but it's the programs I've invested in, the self-development that I've done, the books that I've read, the podcasts I've listened to, all of the different tools and strategies and processes that I've tried, right? It's the fullness of my experience on this earth. There's a reason that I kept getting drawn into money. And I'm going to close this just by saying this last piece. So I have these really amazing people. I have tons of really amazing people in my life, but I was connecting with a few of them a couple weeks back. And we were having a conversation about like whether or not reincarnation is real, and like kind of what our thoughts are about that, and what do we think that our past lives were like, and blah, blah, blah. It was a fun conversation. But one of the things that I talked about was like, I don't know what one of my past lives could have been like, but there's a reason that I keep getting drawn into money. And there's a reason that I have this really like clear focus on creating a specific financial reality in my life. And the response I was met with was, yes, but money isn't everything. And sort of the underarching, I would say, theme or message that was coming through, even though it wasn't said in this way, is you're going after the wrong thing if you think money is what's going to bring you happiness. Now, what amazes me about that is that I never tied those two together. I never once said, hey, I'm going after this specific financial target because I think it's going to make me happy. Nope, I'm already happy. My life is really fucking great. In fact, my life is so fucking great that I've been kind of going, why do I want to go into this new area? Because I don't want to give up what I already got, right? So I had never put that tie together. I will say though, that that is a goal, a dream, a desire, a reality that I am going after creating. And I'm going after creating because it's something that has been on my heart since probably before I was 10, like probably before I even realized what like dreams and desires were. I was so young. It's just always been there. It's never been it's never ever gone away. It's caused frustration and friction and challenge in my life, but it's never ever gone away. How is that any different than someone who chooses and who just knew they wanted to work with animals, and so they chose to be a vet, or they chose to open a pet store, or they, have a breeding kennel or whatever, right? Or how is that different than someone who just has always known they wanted to act or to model, or someone who loves teaching science and just always knew they wanted to be involved in that? We have this way of like conflating the topic of money and financial goals with someone who is greedy and shallow. And sure, there are people that exist in that, but there are people that exist with that specific like construct in every single industry that exists. There are doctors who are doctors purely because they know or they believe to be true that by being a doctor, they're going to get the recognition, the success, the money that they want. So they went, I'll be a doctor because that's actually what I want. There are people who are actors who have that drive. There are people who are business owners and whatever business owner that you want that have that drive. Okay, that exists in every single industry, but that does not say that like a person going after a specific goal or a person that has a specific idea is therefore has to be this person who's like greedy or selfish or shallow or whatever, right? All right. Today, I trust has been a really powerful episode for you. I would super love to hear from you if you found this episode helpful or what your sort of insights, aha moments were from listening to this episode. Share them with me. You can reach out to me on the socials. My handle for both Instagram and TikTok is at Amy Van Meel. Of course, I have those always in the show notes. Just comment on my most recent post or send me a DM. Let me know what you think. And of course, as I mentioned, keep an eye on the socials because that's where I share about all of the latest offerings that I have. It's where I share about things like the new podcast interview that will be dropping in a couple of days, all that kind of jazz. All right, so keep an eye on that. And then very lastly, before I fully close this off, I want to add two little things. So I mentioned this last week that I have this really amazing email sequence that flowed through to me from Source called 7 Messages from Source. These 7 emails, there's no action, there's no nothing that you have to do other than you just need to subscribe so you can go get them. And they're these really beautiful messages that have flowed through from Source that I know can be transformative if you're open to it. Again, my job is not to create your transformation. My job is to open the door and activate you into moving forward, okay? You can get that by going to amyvanmeel.com/7, just the number 7, and then you'll find the sign up page for that. The other thing that I want to offer is that I have been working very diligently to get this all set up on the back end, but I am now officially ready and open and welcoming clients in to work with me on a one-on-one basis. I have a few payment options available for you. I am working at this particular time in 3-month containers, although of course we can do repetitive containers, so don't feel like you're only stuck with me for, that's the wrong way of saying that. You could only work with me for 3 months. We can of course do repeat containers. The point is, if you're looking for a coach, a guide, a mentor to come alongside you and help you get to the next level or to help you shift some of the blocks that you're feeling in your life, to create some perspective shifts for you, etc., and really just help you align more fully into the life that you dream of living and you know is meant to be yours, then perhaps we could be a really great fit to work together. So the URL is amyvanmeel.com. On the homepage, you will find the link to go to the specific coaching page. I'm going to guess that it's going to be amyvanmeel.com/coaching or /mentoring, but I don't know for sure. So for now, just head on over to the homepage, okay? So super delighted to welcome in one-on-one clients and really excited to work with you if you feel so called. With that, my love, I wish you just the most absolute best week ahead. Have an amazing weekend. Know that all of your dreams are inevitable. There are an infinite number of ways to arrive at the inevitable, so your dreams are guaranteed to be yours. With that, I wish you a great day. Bye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform and help me reach more like-minded people who are ready to expand their life. If you haven't yet followed me on social media, find me on Instagram for extra love and inspiration by following at Amy Van Meel or visit my website at amyvanmeel.com. I love you so much, babe, and I am damn proud of you. I am already excited to connect in the next episode. And in the meantime, believe in yourself with the confidence of a 5-year-old.